There's two things I'd ask that you do today as we talk a little bit about the Hope Clinic. And the first thing is that if you've been a part of this congregation since Hope started, if you've felt like you know what the Hope Clinic is and what it does, I would ask that you just come to this with new eyes. I think about when I came here 13 years ago, and I met Reuben. I think he was 4 years old, and his worldview has changed, and he is not the 4-year-old that I think of in my head when I first think of Reuben. Likewise, the Hope Clinic has been around over a decade, and now we've grown, and we're different throughout that, and we've learned from the work that we do, and we've become something different and new and better. So the second thing is to consider why are we spending this time today? Why am I talking about the details of a medical clinic on a Sunday? And I would ask that we think about these scriptures. I've been spending some time out of town with my father, and something that he always said to me growing up, and probably many of yours said the same, is anything worth doing is worth doing right. And I think our Father, God, kind of says the same thing. Anything that we do, and we can see that in Colossians and in 1 Corinthians, that anything that we do, it's as if we are doing it for God. It's in His name that we do it, and it's for His glory that we're doing it, and it's worth doing right. In Matthew, we learn about the greatest command. We learn about a loving God with all our heart, soul, and mind, and love our neighbor as ourselves. And so, as we think about the things that we do, and as we develop, what is it that the Hope Clinic is supposed to be doing? What are we doing? We are supposed to consider not a Hope Clinic that's pretty good or good enough, or all right, or hey, it's free, and everyone should just be thankful they can come. It's saying we're going to build a Hope Clinic that is what I would want, that I would want to come to, and it would be how I want to be treated. And then, lastly, in Ephesians, we are called to be God's handiwork, that He's prepared in advance for us the work that we are going to do. And in 1 Peter, we kind of learn, we think about our talents and the gifts that we've been given. I think about my brother a lot. I have 4 older brothers, one of which is 7 years older than I am. And when I got to college or to high school, a high school he never actually attended, there were people there 7 years later still talking about my older brother, who still remembered this kid. Who back home we had junior highs, so as freshmen you're in junior high, and then high school was 10th, 11th, and 12th. And so as a freshman, he was extremely talented in athletics. This guy had been dunking the basketball since 7th grade. In his freshman year, he broke his shooting wrist and had a cast. And so he just switched to the other hand and was still the top scorer in the league. I mean, it was just like bonkers, this guy, what he could do. He would do this thing just to show off, and this is what these coaches were still talking about 7 years later. As a freshman, he would jump in the air, and this is a guy who's never done any kind of martial arts. He would jump in the air, he would kick his foot up, and he would kick the basketball net on a 10-foot hoop. My brother never finished high school, and he has spent more of his life in prison, or more of my life in prison than not. And those talents were not used the way they could have. And that's something that resonates in my mind. And so as an individual, God's calling us to use our gifts. And if you haven't noticed, I never could kick a basketball net. But I still have other gifts and talents and skills that I've got to use. And I think that as the Hope Clinic, it's the same way. We come to that and say, what are the gifts and talents and skills and opportunity that God has given us? And we better use these. The Destin Church of Christ has made space, right? on a daily basis here. This church has made space, physically squeezed tighter, to allow this clinic to operate in this building and in this place and in our community. And so we need to use those talents and use that gift that God has given us to the best of our ability. And so as we go forward, please keep that in mind. This is why this is important. This is why these details matter. It matters because God wants us to be doing everything in His name. So Hope Clinic by the numbers. The total active patients right now, we have just over 5,000 active patients. We did about 10,000, a little over 10,000 provider that encounters. That means that patient came in and a provider sat across from them and they were spoken to and we met them. That does not include all the telemedicine we did this last year with COVID. It doesn't include all the refills we do, all the triage calls we take, and it also doesn't include the specialty referrals. So we did 722 surgeries, procedures, and specialty appointments for our patients last year. Behavioral health encounters, equally, we provide our patients access to psychiatry and counseling. And so if they need medication or counseling to work through issues, we do that collaboratively within the clinic. And we were able to provide 847 visits. And that's a program that is newer and is growing as we speak. The program expenses here, and these are just to highlight a couple things. The cost to operate the clinic is just over $500,000, most of which is provided through grants. Additionally, through area churches. This is the monetary funds. This does not include the church providing the space that we work out of and electricity and all the other things that you all do for us. And then through individual donors, another $60,000. So this, by allowing us to be here, that is the financial value of revenue that's coming through that space and then back out into the community. And when it goes back out into the community, the total annual community impact is about $4.6 million worth of medical care that goes back out into our community. Again, in the 1,400 square feet that we occupy, plus the rest of the building that you know that we use throughout the week. So those are just some of the numbers, but what does that mean? What's the impact on an individual? So we do every year, we meet with Sacred Heart, who we partner with, and we talk to them about, how many people have we seen? How many people did they send to us? How many people, what kinds of services did we provide them? But one of the things that I really like that we do is we highlight patient cases. We highlight somewhere between, sometimes we do about 20 of these, and what we're looking for is when Sacred Heart refers us a patient, what is the outcome of that? And so I just picked 3 of some of those, and we can kind of look at those. So this first patient came to us with hypertension, COPD, tachycardia, and sleep apnea. They had 4 ER visits, a 4-day hospital stay prior to coming to our clinic, and they came to the Hope Clinic in 2019, and they have yet to return except one time for an ER visit since. The patient case 2, this is a patient that was diagnosed with hypertension, COPD, GERD, peptic ulcer disease. They had 2 ER visits and a 2-day hospital stay, and they have not returned since 2020 to Sacred Heart. And then the last case that I have here, this is this patient is diagnosed with hypertension, osteoarthritis, anemia, spinal stenosis, lung mass, and alcohol abuse. They had 5 ER visits. They had an 8-day hospitalization prior to coming to the Hope Clinic, and they have yet to return to the hospital. So you can start to see the impact. Again, this is just 3. I can go on and on and on with these cases, but The Hope Clinic started in the very beginning just trying to meet a client. A patient comes and we say, okay, what's going on with you? What do you need medications? Do you need refills? And what can we do, and can we get you to a specialist somewhere? And we've developed over the years to become what's called a healthcare home. That means when a patient comes to us, we get to know them. We do screenings. We get to understand who they are, what their needs potentially might be, using best practices. We collaborate. As I said, we do mental health integration. So within the same place, the primary care provider is talking to the behavioral health specialist, to the counselors, to a social worker. This is a collaborative approach. When a patient comes to the Hope Clinic, they might see a nurse practitioner, but that nurse practitioner has access to internal medicine providers who can follow up on a specific illness that they're suffering from. They're getting much more. We have a general surgeon who comes to the clinic and provides 12 surgeries a month. We see the post-op and pre-op here at the clinic, and we do all those surgeries at Sacred Heart. Again, that's a partnership that they allow us to use the OR because of our ability to keep uninsured patients from returning when they don't have emergencies and they have primary care needs. You can see the types of care that we're providing, the amount of services that we're giving our patients. It's important to us that we continue to grow. I always say that running a free clinic it slices both ways. Yes, it's free, so we have to figure out how we're going to pay for it. But once we've done that, we're a free clinic, so we come to the table and we say, what kind of care do we want to provide? Not what does the insurance company pay for, and what will X pay for this? We come to the table and say, what works? What does the best research say is going to make an impact in this patient's life? Because I'm here, so we're not going to waste our time, and the doctor's here, and the nurse is here, and everyone's here, and we want to do that right. We want to do that with the right kind of care. Gary mentioned VDPs in his sermon, and I would say that we have a fair amount of VDPs that we have to engage with, and anyone does when you deal with the greater community. And I think what we've learned is biblical. What God is calling us, that gentleness, that self-control, that comes from understanding what we're called to be and who we're called to be, but also better understanding who it is we're serving. When we know things about our patients, we can better understand why they're in the circumstance that they're in. Gary, you said really well that it didn't start, somebody's behavior didn't start, it wasn't given by God, it was learned. It was practiced over time. And we see a lot of patients that come from significant trauma. In fact, 3 times the national average, our patients come to the clinic having experienced significant childhood trauma. That's a big deal, and we need to know that and understand that. And so when you're dealing with somebody who's maybe not appreciating the care that we give, where we might want to be rude, our team and the doctors and individuals that come, we're saying, no, this is how we're going to approach this, and this is what gets a good outcome. And guess what? God calls us to live this way. He calls us to these standards, to have that gentleness, to have the self-control, to have the understanding, and to spend the time and show that real love of getting to know our patients. In this process, just to give you an idea of the layers that this small clinic has grown to be able to do, we partnered with a software company called Arentra, and they came in and we developed with them a software. So a patient comes to the clinic, they receive their first appointment. Before their first appointment, they receive a text message, and we begin to ask them questions about their visit. Before they come, we're asking specific questions. This is a form of artificial intelligence, as far as there's a certain types of questions, and based on your answers, it's going to ask more questions and delve into further detail, and using, again, best practices. So this is what's textbook. if a patient says, I have X, the textbook says you ask this question. And if you say you have back pain, it's going to ask all the questions that a physician should ask, like where does it refer and what part, and it goes on and on. It's pretty involved. What's cool about this program that we worked with a renter with as well is it's smart. It goes into our medical record system, and it learns about the patient. And so if you've come once, you're not having to answer that same question over and over. And then it has smart questions specific to your case. Oh, you're on these medications. Do you need a refill? Are you still taking them? So all this is happening before a patient arrives, while they're at home, while they have their medicines with them, when they can go, oh, what was my glucose? And let me look at my glucometer. I have it here. And it's not all happening in the office. So we're preparing before that client comes. We're preparing, what are they going to need? Oh, they had an ER visit. We're going to need to get those records. We're going to be ready for that. So the client comes, we already have this information. We've already been going through it. We've already been collaborating with our team, our nurse case managers. We have 4 nurses, 3 of which can speak Spanish, and they're working through it, as well as the software can be set at multiple languages. So our patient comes, and it's not a 15-minute appointment. It's 30 to 45 minutes as we delve into what's going on with them, as we delve into their background, how we can better serve them, and what's the next step for them, especially since they're uninsured. Where are they going to go next? The cool thing about working with this organization or with this software company, is we were able to develop that and develop it in a way that fit us really well. And then we were able to share that throughout the state. And now there are 5 other free and charitable clinics within the state of Florida that are also using the same system and process. And it's really cool to be a part of sharing and leading the way within our community and within the state. And so it goes far beyond just this local community. In 2021, Hope Clinic has another pretty awesome step that we're really excited about. We now, thankfully, because of, if you haven't met Terry, you should. We were very lucky to meet Terry. She came to this church as a licensed pharmacist, and she is now our pharmacy director. Furthermore, this year, we were able to get a pharmacy license, which that means we're going to be able to provide that many more services. We're going to be able to provide that much more medication to our patients here on location. We already are doing that, but this is going to raise our ability. It raises the quality. It raises the safety of the medications we're providing by operating as a pharmacy. Just in our initial months, just testing things out, just seeing how this was going to work, how we could track the medications that we're providing patients, how we're going to make the labels, provide them to clients, bring those medications in. We have a slide here. Just from February to last month, we were able to value $234,000 worth of medications. That was 566 individual medications that we physically wrote the script and handed to a client here. And that was just at the Destin Clinic, not at out in Freeport, which is where we'll be going next. So these are the amazing things that are happening at the Hope Clinic. People like Terry are coming on board. Our staff and our team is motivated and wanting to do this the right way. And so I know this is a lot of information. I know in some ways it can be, what's that got to do with me? But it has so much, because again, it's being a good steward of what you've made possible as a congregation. And it's where God has taken it. When we've said, okay, use us. Bring individuals to the table who have talents, like Terry, like our team, like our nurses. Bring individuals to us who can speak multiple languages. Bring people who want to train students. Bring us great students who want to end up staying with us and keep pushing this program. Bring individuals who want to help fund and find ways to grow our revenue and ability to do more. I'm so thankful for being a part of this organization, for your vision and willingness and your daily squeezing in and making space for this. And we're going to continue down this path of growing, finding new ways and better ways to serve our community, and in a way that you can be proud. That when somebody comes here, they're treated the way God would call us to treat them. That they're not going to be turned away, they're not going to be ridiculed, they're not going to be yelled at, but given love and shown how they can get better, and really where that love comes from. So I thank you for your continued support. I thank you for listening to me go on, and please, if you see any of our staff, please tell them if you are appreciative, because they work really hard and they deal with a lot of difficult stuff daily to make all of this possible. I thank you, and we take this time to, I think on your way out you can make a donation if you'd like to the Hope Clinic, and I think we have a closing song. We don't. A closing prayer. All right.